Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Tel Aviv in Israel. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We are at a location where hundreds of families of those abducted by Hamas terrorists are camping, hoping that the US President Joe Biden, along with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, will work relentlessly to bring back the 200 people who've been held hostage by the Hamas terrorists. And over the course of the next half hour, we get you details. Now, this problem has been compounded by an explosion at a hospital in the Gaza Strip. Now, the Palestinian authorities claim, the Hamas claims that this was an Israeli missile strike, but this is a charge that Israel has denied. But what are the implications of that explosion at a hospital at Gaza Strip? Over the course of the next half hour, we tell you the implications for Palestine, for Israel, and for the world.
Gaza hospital explosion kills hundreds. Hamas and Israel trade charges. Big turning point in this war. Biden gives clean chit to Israel. What next for Israel, Hamas, and the world? India today at the front line of war. Exclusive report from the battle zone.
The situation between Israel and Palestine has deteriorated. It's deteriorated after that Hamas terror attack and, of course, that explosion that took place at a hospital at the Gaza Strip. While the Islamic Jihad and the Hamas, they were quick to claim that this was an Israeli missile strike, a charge that's strongly been denied by Israel, giving evidence that this was perhaps an Islamic Jihad rocket fired at southern Israel that exploded prematurely. The fire on ground was the propellant, according to Israel. The explosion that took place on ground was the explosives that were in the rocket that went off course and exploded. We get you more in this report.
Flames rage. Haunting echoes of sirens fill the air. Patients and bodies rushed from a hospital in Gaza. The ground scattered with school backpacks, blankets, and the remnants of personal belongings. Al-Ahli Hospital was packed with Palestinians seeking shelter from unceasing Israeli airstrikes. It was bombed on Tuesday.
On the morning of the second day, the head of hospital, Dr. Meher Ayad, received a phone call from Israeli army to tell him that we warned you yesterday by firing 2 strikes. The only place in the world where you get warned of being hit by strikes is the Gaza Strip. The only place that houses being warned by is through by airstrikes.
The Gazan Health Ministry put the toll at 500 or more dead. A figure later revised to hundreds. But the images from the scene revealed the extent of destruction. The Palestinian militant group Hamas blamed it on Israeli airstrikes. Israeli officials denied any role, claiming the hospital bombings was the result of a Hamas rocket misfire.
Israel did not strike the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza. What happened last night is that Palestinian Islamic Jihad fired a rocket from inside the Gaza Strip. It fell short, like many of their rockets, and the shrapnel hit that hospital. The images that we are seeing inside the Gaza Strip of the damage from the hospital are truly shocking, and that is the result of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad war crime, firing rockets from inside densely populated areas and ending up killing their own civilians.
Israeli military released what it called intercepts of a phone call between 2 Hamas operatives discussing the failed rocket that landed on the Gaza hospital.
بقول لك أول مرة بنشوف الصاروخ زي هيك والشظايا هذه فبقول لك تبع الجهاد الصواريخ الجهاد الإسلامي هاي. إيه فهم بيقولوا تعاون الجهاد الإسلامي.
إنه من عندنا هذا
شكله من عندنا
Accusations and counter-accusations aside, this was the deadliest single incident in Gaza in the 10-day-old war triggered by the October 7th assault by Hamas on Israel. Protest erupted across various cities over the hospital bombing, with world powers condemning the incident in one voice.
The scenes from the explosion at a Gaza City hospital are deeply distressing, and it is clear that there has been a devastating loss of life. Every innocent life matters, whether it is Israeli or Palestinian.
Once again, the most vulnerable. This is totally unacceptable. Hospitals are sacrosanct, and they must be protected at all costs. We don't yet know the full scale of this carnage, but what is clear is that the violence and killing must stop at once.
The tragedy has left its mark, a somber reminder of the human cost of conflicts, where places of healing become targets of destruction. Bureau Report, India Today.
On ground zero here in Tel Aviv, all eyes on the US President Joe Biden. Can he intervene? Will that intervention help? Well, he's met Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. They've had a long meeting, and in that meeting, Joe Biden made one thing very clear. Israel had a right to defend itself. He came out very strongly in favor of Israel. He's also said the explosion that took place at the hospital appears to be the work of the other team. But for the families who are here on ground zero in Tel Aviv, the focus is do a deal now, bring the children home. From a child just a couple of months old to a Holocaust survivor more than 85 years old. Hamas terrorists abducted more than 200 people from that entire belt in southern Israel, from Sderot to Kibbutz Be'eri to Kafar Azar to the Rim Festival. From all those places, people were abducted, and families here want their loved ones back and expect the US President Joe Biden to play a role there.
A hug and a handshake, sealing a message of solidarity between the United States and Israel. US President Joe Biden touched down in Israel today at perhaps the most crucial stage of the Hamas conflict. Hours after a horrifying bombing of a Gaza hospital that killed over 500. But that did not deter Biden from expressing his strong backing for Israel and even a public statement on who is behind the hospital horror.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose bonhomie with Biden was visible from the tarmac to the meeting room, thanked Biden for all the support.
First visit of an American president in Israel at a time of war. It is deeply, deeply moving. It speaks to the depth of your personal commitment to the future of the Jewish people and the one and only Jewish state. So I know I speak for all the people of Israel when I say, thank you, Mr. President.
Biden repeated Israel's Hamas-ISIS comparison as well.
Terrorist group Hamas has slaughtered, as has been pointed out, over 1,300 people. And it's not hyperbole, it's just slaughtered. They're committed evils that and atrocities that make ISIS look somewhat more rational.
Biden has yet again reaffirmed his support for Israel, saying their courage was stunning and that he was proud to be in Israel. Biden's visit is heralded as a genuine, heartfelt demonstration of sympathy and a profound expression of commitment from the United States. But also keep in mind that Biden's visit to Israel is an incredibly delicate tightrope walk. With the looming election in the United States, the Israel-Hamas conflict widening into more parts of the Middle East will mean the United States has no choice but to get embroiled. America's role in the ongoing conflict is being closely watched, and so far, Biden has made it crystal clear that his country is 100% backing ally Israel. Bureau Report, India Today.
Some of the most horrifying images from that October 7th terror strike in Israel were from the Nova Music Festival in the southern part of Israel. That is where thousands of youngsters, they came together to enjoy perhaps an evening of great music. There was a camping site there. There was beautiful music that was being made. And this was an open area, of course, not far from the Gaza fence. That's where I was in the evening. And there we saw the most horrifying images of death and destruction. There were 3,000 people there. 300 were massacred by the Hamas terrorists and several abducted. The terrorists had actually come not just in pickup trucks and mini vans, also on motorcycles. They abducted people and took them back. At this location, the families say, punish Hamas, but before that, bring our children home.
Music, laughter, dance, and a fest full of friends and companions. The night of October 6th at the Nova Music Fest in Israel's Remi Kibbutz was filled with fervor. But moments later, all the frolic and liveliness came to a brutal end. Savagery, fear, and death stalking the nearly 3,000 concert goers. Heavily armed Hamas terrorists invaded from Gaza Strip and started slaughtering innocent young party goers. Many fled to the nearby bushes and deserts but were butchered by Hamas. Dozens other, including women, were raped, brutalized, and taken hostage by Hamas terrorists. Now, days on, India Today reached the deserted Nova Music Fest venue at Remi Kibbutz to find painful relics of the massacre, which claimed 300 lives, including those from Israel and abroad.
This is the site of the Nova Music Festival, the RIM Music Festival, and this is where Hamas terrorists landed on hang gliders, came in automobiles and massacred 260 innocent people who were here for an evening of music. Look all around this place. When you look around this place, you there. The camping site. This is where people were listening to music. Soldiers of the Israeli army are still clearing this area.
Israeli security personnel vowed to hunt the Music Fest butchers and make them pay the price of butchering innocents.
We have now 199 accounted hostages in Gaza. And as we believe in the sanctity of life, we believe doing everything we can in bringing back them in the safest way. And we are ready for whatever action is needed in order to do that, to bring them safely and to return the safety to the state of Israel and its people.
The pain for Israel is compounded by the fact that Hamas still has dozens of hostages seized from the music fest. How long before the deep wounds of the attack will heal? With Gaurav Sawant in Israel, Bureau Report, India Today.
This war between Israel and Hamas terror has actually turned into a battleground, and battleground not just on ground zero here, but also at various universities in the United States of America, where pro-Palestine protesters have come out in the open and they're attacking young Jewish students and they're attacking their right to speak up against Hamas terror. Such is the outrage at several universities that donors are now pulling the plug. They're pulling the plug. Thousands and lakhs of dollars that were donated to these universities. It could be Columbia, it could be Harvard, but now the plug is being pulled from the funding at these universities. You can't claim money from the donors here and then become a voice for Hamas terror. That's the buzz, not just there, but also here on Ground Zero.
The world's top universities have turned into battlegrounds as the Israel-Hamas war escalates. This was a pro-Palestine protest that took place at the Harvard campus on 15th October. It came a week after a statement from 30 Harvard student groups that held Israel entirely responsible for the massacre of civilians in Israel on 7th October. The statement made no mention of Hamas or the terror it unleashed. At other university campuses too, pro-Palestine protests were organized. But the refusal to condemn terrorism and anti-Semitism is now drawing sharp backlash. Lawrence Summers, former Treasury Secretary to Bill Clinton and advisor to Obama's and a former Harvard University president, was one of the first to publicly blast the Ivy League school's administration over a lack of response and said that the institution had never been as disillusioned and alienated. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman took to social media and called for signatory names to be released and not hire them in future. Interestingly, he received support from other business honchos. Israeli billionaire Idan Ofer and his wife Batia led the donation protest and quit Harvard executive board. With a fortune of $20 billion, he was one of the biggest names to step back. In the latest fallout, former Victoria's Secret billionaire Leslie Wexner and his wife Abigail's non-profit, the Wexner Foundation, ended their relationship and financial support to Harvard, saying that they were stunned and sickened. Kenneth Griffin, who donated more than $500 million to Harvard, committing $300 million this year alone, also placed a direct call to the university head to condemn Hamas, calling the delay unforgivable. Not just the UK, but 3 major donors pulled back funding to the University of Pennsylvania for a platform to anti-Semitic speakers. Apollo CEO Mark Rowan, who had donated $50 million in 2018 to Wharton School, said he will now donate only $1 in protest. David Megerman, a Jewish billionaire, had donated $5 million, but now said he was deeply ashamed with the association for giving platform to alleged hate speech. Not just powerful voices, top US law firms also have taken action. Davis Polk announced it will revoke letters of employment for 3 law students at Harvard and Columbia universities who signed on controversial statements, while Winston and Strawn rescinded their letter of employment to an intern for inflammatory comments. Billionaire backlash is unprecedented and it's the world's elite colleges that are paying the price. Bureau Report, India Today.
The campaign here continues to bring Israelis back, the 200 hostages back from Hamas custody. Of course, Hamas, through its interlocutors, claim they have at least 250 Israelis, but there is information that they have at least 199. While they claim 22 had been killed. Hamas claimed 22 had been killed in an Israeli airstrike. The Israeli army has made one thing very clear. Hamas is responsible for every death in their custody. We will continue to track that story very closely, but that is all I have for you on this India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Tel Aviv in Israel. Many thanks for watching. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.